I'm co-host James Ash.
And I'm co-host Phil Scaife.
Welcome to the Business Lockdown. Welcome to today's show. A very good friend of mine, Jack Burton, who owns a gym, Fit24 in Hull, East Yorkshire, just about to launch a very large supplement brand and products, which we'll talk more about on the episode, and also has a training academy. So welcome to today's show, Jack, and his very first podcast. So you're breaking the seal today.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us.
As well. No, thanks for having us.
Welcome to the show, Jack.
Cheers, Phil. Thank you.
So, I mean, your industry has been knackered, right? Let's just go straight in on that. The health and fitness industry with COVID-19 has certainly suffered. How has that been? Because you've recently just reopened. So, take us back to the kind of closing of the doors, what that meant in terms of running the business, how you had to pivot and adapt to those tough times, and what the COVID period has looked like for you, and then of course what relaunch has looked like, and also the mindset of your members as well during and coming out of that. So yeah, what's it been like?
Well, it was a bit odd. We've spoke obviously previously, Jay, to this, and I said about my mindset changing towards things. And I think if this had happened to me like a year ago, I'd have probably just buried my head, like, what do I do? Where do I go? But I mean, when we was told to close, I didn't really realise, because I don't think the government acted quickly enough to sort of in fear, panic and sort of amongst people. So when we was actually told to close, I was thinking, well, this is going to be for a couple of weeks. I actually we got all the members out. I went to the pub next door. I got 4 pints, and I come back and I sat with my members of staff, and we all had a pint, thinking I'm going to have 2 weeks off. And then, it just sort of went from like, well, are we going to be open in 2 weeks? Are we going to be open in a month? And then it soon got to the point where it was like, well, look, we've got no income. We've got no chance of trying to open anytime soon. We just sort of kept getting left off the radar, not just the fitness industry, but obviously like health and beauty as well, tattooists, that kind of stuff. Just sort of got left, forgotten about. Didn't seem as though anybody really cared, especially from my point of view, from what I experienced. And it was a very hard, close to 5 months. It got to the point where, like, even someone like me who's very active and likes to be doing something all the time, there was just nothing that could fulfill that void. It was very difficult financially. I mean, luckily, I run the business and propped it up to we had a good rainy day sort of fun there. And I mean, it's one of them things. It's concerning, because all of a sudden you're thinking about, well, I've got the business. How do I secure the business? How do I support the staff? How do we get all these sort of things going? And in some respects, especially in the beginning, I thought the country was good in terms of well looked after from what the government did in introducing the fair loan, things like that. And a big fan of that, because I thought, well, look, none of us are travelling, none of us have got to go anywhere. So that 20% reduction, we should be able to cope with that. But then, there was twists and turns, isn't there? To everything. There's always right and lefts, and I just think to myself, there were so many people that have then been affected, more so than others, by this. And the industry that I'm in, and the other industries that I mentioned as well previously, we just got left, massively left out. Well, I don't think anybody will recover, from a business owner point of view. I don't think you can ever recover from that, because, you've lost out on 5 months of trade, 5 months of turnover, 5 months of profit, 5 months of staff wages, that kind of stuff, which them guys might be banking on to go against. I've got one member of my staff, really nice guy, but he's due his next child next month, so I'm pretty sure that 20% in reduction, second child he has next month. I'm pretty sure that 20% in reduction of wages was probably going to go towards, obviously the first couple of months of that person's life, and their sort of family. So, I'm glad that we're back open. I don't want to go down that negative sort of, well of, well, this should have happened, that should have happened, because, it's in the past now. We've got to move forward. We're on with it. Luckily, we've had a really, really good open. And that's down to the staff. It's down to the community and members as well that we've got, which obviously if anybody's watching, I really appreciate. And I've said thank you many a times in the past and during this COVID thing as well, because their support has been really, really good in order for the business to operate, to continue going, and for all the staff. We've not had to lay one person off or anything like that. Everybody's come back full time and more, due to how eager people was, the public, to get back into a place like the gym.
Have you seen much of a membership I assume it's a membership model to the gym. Have you seen much of a decline? What sort of percentages?
We're actually up to where we was before COVID, and it's happened very quickly. And again, I think it's because we managed to get well ahead of it before we actually physically sort of locked down. So we only had a short period of time where people were sort of up in the air questioning, like, well, are we going to get charged outward? Because we put out straight away, look, we're not going to be charging people. I mean, some companies tried to within the industry, and I think it's because they had to charge or try and charge a percentage of the membership, and just to basically keep the wolves away from the door. But luckily, as a company, I didn't have to do that. So all the sort of loss financially was on the company, and obviously the staff losing out on the 20% that they had to because of the furlough. But then going forward, it's I think, like I say, the sort of the want and the need of getting back into the club from the members, which have obviously massively supported us. We did 173 sign-ups within, like, I think it's like the first 7 days of being open, which obviously is fantastic. And again, it's a credit to the staff, the club, and the community people we've got around us as well. And we had that many people sort of coming. We didn't really have to chase anybody. People have come to us straight away and said, look, I want to restart. I want to get back into it. Which again, I mean, like Fit24 is, it's Hull's biggest independent gym, I believe. Obviously it's the premium standard, if you like, of that, and we pride ourselves on it. And I think the community of members that go there really want it to do well. So yeah, big thanks again to them.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the mindset as well. So because there's been a lot of fear out there. People have dealt with it very differently in terms of sticking to the rules. We've had a government official flaunting them, which I think was that was incredible, really. But what's the mindset of your members now coming in? Are they relieved that they can just get back and having a routine and coming to the gym as part of their day? Are you seeing people just a little bit on edge? What are you experiencing? Because how long have you been up? You've been up a couple of weeks now, give or take?
It's 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks on Saturday.
Yeah.
So still early doors. We had such a mass of people like messaging, like wanting to know like what the score was, what this was, what that was, and like they wanted to understand the guidelines that was in place. But I think overridingly, it was just a case of like people just literally had nothing to do. Like the routines had been shattered. Some of these guys I can expect to see them day in, day out, morning, evening, some people as well, twice a day, weekends, especially if these guys have got, like families or job, depending on the job choices and, how sort of strenuous that is on time for these guys. The gyms, they escape, and as well as that, like I've noticed, like, with us being 24 hours as well, we don't ever close. So we're always somewhere that people can go. I mean, I'll tell you what, like I'll tell you a bit of a thing. I went to the gym one day and I was like, I'm just going to check, just see this is during COVID, just seeing what's going on. And I turned up, and as I turned up, I realised there's a car in the car park. So I went over to the guy and I said, oh, look, I've seen him on the cameras. You okay? How come you're hanging about? And he said, look, mate, I'm at home. He said, obviously, we've got nowhere to go. He said, me and my missus have had a bit of a to-do. And he said, this is the only place I could have thought of to come. And this guy's a member, obviously, and I'm just thinking, he just that would have been his play. He'd have been in the gym right now. He'd have been in there. He'd have been letting off some steam. He'd have been training. He'd have been feeling, probably leaving that place feeling a lot better. Potentially, he probably wouldn't have been in his missus' hair, and that sort of negative argument, if you like, that they potentially had, or that disagreement, wouldn't have probably have happened in the first place. So, I mean, that sort of resonated with me massively, because I was just thinking, God, like some people literally, that the gym is the place where they need to go after work, before work, or whatever negative is in their life. The gym's the answer. And I just thought, not just my gym, obviously every gym as well. We've got Ultraflex around the corner. We've got the guys at Proactive as well across the road. A couple of others in the area too as well, which, they're all homes for people to go to meet people, see the friends, communicate, that kind of stuff, get a bit of stress off. And it'll have affected the whole of the city massively, for that community of people that need to go. And just on that one incident that I told you there, I mean, I know that there's others that I don't want to mention, I won't get into, where people have messaged me personally and said, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, especially when you're talking about 5 months, 5 months of people not being able to go to that place. And, me especially. I mean, from my point of view, I'll tell you how soul destroying it was. I was going in at first thinking, oh, well, it's my own gym, I can train, I've got all the equipment, all that lot. the first day I got there and I opened up the shutters, I was like, this is just slow. This is just dead. You know, I'm turning the music on, and you know, and I'm thinking, well, what can I do to try and like motivate myself? And I mean, normally, like when I go in there and I'm trying to train, I'm saying hello to everybody, a quick catch up here, quick catch up there. I end up having far too many coffees, you know, because everybody wants a quick sit down. And then it was crazy though, because then the first day I did go back in, and the gym was already open, the music was already on, there's people cheering. I walked in and I felt like a massive breath of fresh air come into me. And yeah, that's from, I suppose, like an ownership point of view. But, you know, I had members coming up to me shaking my hand, you know, for the first, and I'm thinking that, you know, I haven't done anything. I've just been allowed to open. So I mean, that really resonated again, because people just had the biggest smile. You know, it was like sort of kids at Christmas, you know, being able to where to go again, you know. So was
there ever a moment where you didn't think you'd reopen?
Yeah, there was. It got to a point where I was thinking, I quickly, I know when we were closed, I quickly did like did an exercise where I was like, right, let's work out the maths. Let's see where we are as a business. Let's see where we can go. And I worked out we could have gone to, like, say, for example, February, before I'd have had to have started personally investing some money into the business to, you know, to keep it going. But, you know, I was always pretty comfortable. But then it got to the point where I was saying to the club manager, Mike, I was going, well, you know, we'll be up. Let's see where we are in 2 weeks. You know, waiting for these announcements to come out. I was like, let's see where we are in 2 weeks. Let's see where we are in 2 weeks. And then I think I'd said that like 4 or 5 times, and I was scratching my head thinking, what? And then when pubs was allowed to open, I mean, don't worry, I have friends that own pubs and run pubs and bars and that kind of stuff. I want everybody to do well. I want everybody to be back open and back on the scene. But I was just thinking, well, I don't understand. Like, you know, I don't know about you guys, but if I go for a couple of pints, I get very friendly. You know, and the idea of social distancing is probably going to be, you know, I'm a big hugger. So I just think to myself, well, that's going to go. And I just think...
Very huggy. Yeah, very huggy is Jack.
Very huggy. Yeah,
very huggy.
So I was just like, if them places are going to open, I don't understand how gyms can't open. You know, tattoo parlours. I've got a friend, Rob, you know, did mine as well. You know, he suffered throughout all this. And again, you know, like the health and beauty sort of sector as well. I've got a friend, and she actually put an article in the paper, I think it was maybe last week or so, about how she'd suffered massively. And them guys even more so, because I'd read in the article that was on Hull Live that she was penciled in to open, and then one of her staff apparently the night before had come in and said, look, have you seen the announcement? It's changed. We're being put back again. And I just thought, God, you know, I mean, I couldn't imagine, well, I can imagine that being me, you know, because I was always open up for that 2 weeks, but then I couldn't imagine being sort of that close, and then actually physically being you that has to then turn to his staff and put the announcement out on your social medias to say, I'm sorry, we've got to cancel all the appointments. And because from a business point of view, you're going to probably be looking at that revenue thinking, well, that's going to pay my rent, that's going to pay my staff, that's going to pay this. And as well, like, you know, a lot of people have finance out on the businesses, which in a normal circumstance, it's no issue. They're paying these every month, you know, they're building the business up from the ground. And, you know, a lot of people as well rely on that, on paying all the bills, and then they get the money out of that as their wages, you know, and it's totally gone. You know, if I think the thing about them industries is we're all offering a service for the income, and obviously if we can't offer a service, we're totally out. You know what we're supposed to do. So, yeah, I mean, there was some times when I just thought, this we're looking at January at least.
Yeah.
You know, and I got to the point where I'm thinking, well, the government aren't what I thought there was a couple of months ago. You know, definitely not. And then like the local authority as well, like they sort of, you know, created a rod for their own back with me. And again, it just sort of led to me being, it's a good job I have one of these like sort of attitudes where I'm thinking, well, tomorrow's another day. You know, like in a week's time, it'll be okay. Because otherwise, I think I'd have just been going around seeing red all the time, you know, so.
Yeah, you said that right at the beginning, you said that if this had happened to you a year ago, you probably wouldn't have handled it the same way. You wouldn't have had the same mindset. Mm. What's happened in that year? Like, can you pinpoint what's happened, how it's happened, how you've changed? Was there a trigger moment to this?
Yeah, do you know what, guys? Like we said, didn't we, at the beginning? Like, not everything's on the table, you know. So we're not going to keep anything away from any of it. Now, I mean, I come from very humble beginnings. You know, my parents are very, very good. You know, I've been brought up around great families as well. You know, we've all had these humble beginnings, and some of my friends have done very, very well. I mean, I've always grafted. You know, I'm quite sort of severely dyslexic. I don't mind saying it. You know, I can read comic books. I'll put some time and effort into them, but it takes me a long time to read them. give me a book and I'll just give it back. I'm not interested in it. You send me an email. James knows. He sent me a couple of emails. I can't respond. I'll ring him. I'd rather just chat. And basically, yeah, I mean, I'd taken over what was a going concern at the time, which was Fit24, going back in, I think, 2011. So it was a long time ago now. And I'd worked there previously, sort of part-time, full-time. And I was given it as like an opportunity. And basically, what had happened was I'd put everything into it over the years. All my savings. It ended up becoming like a family business. My mum and dad was heavily involved as well. Like the members loved them being there as well. And basically, I was in St Stephen's shopping centre, and then one day, I kid you not, I was asked if I'd come in, have a chat. I was like, yeah, no problem. I'm discussing apparently an extension to the place, and then next thing you know, this opportunity that I'd been given, that I always worked with them, I always, because it's Sky High rents and stuff in there. I'd gone from possibly talking about extending the lease to them turning around and them saying, no, we want you out in 20 days. And I was just like, what? 20 days? I was like, no chance. I was like, I've got a lease, I've got this, I've got that. And, they'd sort of gone about things, morally, in my opinion, sort of very wrong. And there was a time, like in that, when I got it, I remember going home, coming to my dogs, and I'm just sat there thinking, what do I do? I don't understand. I don't get this. I've got staff. All sorts of things are running through my mind. I've got staff to look after. I've got a large membership. I've got all these people that come to the club. I mean, I've got a business that does very well. And these guys are just trying to pull me out, for whatever reason. And, I just thought to myself, right, okay, well, I've got two options. I can either just sort of bury my head and someone's going to unravel it for me, or I can sort of take a moment and then I can go back at this anyway. I ended up obviously choosing the second option. And I think for 6 weeks, I spent literally every hour of every day into what was going to be my second club, just making sure that I could get it open. I was fighting the previous off with one hand, to keep Fit24 alive and to keep it going and to keep it where I wanted it to be. And then I was fighting the other side off as well. Sorry, not fighting the other side off, but obviously building the other side to obviously then try and be this incredible place I wanted it to be. And like a new reinvented gym, if you like. And then it come to the point where I was able to close the doors at one club. And it was mental as well. Like I went through this whole 6 weeks of like headache and stress as well. And I mean, at the same time as well, to sort of add more stress on there. I had, my dad, you've met him, James, like he went through a triple heart bypass, at the time. So that was a very that's sort of the first time I've then seen someone who you grow up with just thinking he's always going to be there. We all go through it. He's always going to be there. He's always doing this. He's always doing that. And then next thing you know, it's like he's vulnerable, and it's it just sort of blew my head up because I'm getting pulled from pillar to post. I'm going here, I'm going there. I was in a situation at home as well, without going too far into that one, where it turned out it wasn't right for me. Obviously in the end, and I always, I just wanted to put effort into everything there. I don't give up on things. So I was putting effort into everything that I possibly could, and then. We opened and I ended up doing, the gym just went from strength to strength, and I stood there and I'm thinking, I wish I'd have done this years ago. I wish I'd have come out of there. I wish I'd have been in my own independent building, my own boss, not my own boss, but my own landlord, if you like. So I had no issues, no concerns. My dad recovered, so obviously that was really good. And it was like the light at the end of the tunnel wasn't a train, it was actually light at the end of the tunnel. And then, I'm in a situation now as well where I've got no, I haven't got a partner, for a start. It's just me and the dogs. So I've got no headache, no stress when I come home. The business is doing really well, and even during this lockdown, although there was negatives and things like that, and I'm thinking, I'd love to be open. I was nowhere near in as much stress and pressure and headache and clouded space as to what I was last year when I'm trying to go through all this unraveling, and I couldn't see for the smoke that was around. And I mean, it got to a point where I remember being sat there at times thinking, God, I'm sure people look for ways out for less stress and less headache, than what I'm going through right now. I mean, I kid you not, Jay, there's people that are close to me, that work close to me, and they'll tell you, like, they was having conversations with me and I was just vacant, my head's just 100 miles an hour, like there's so many things going on. And I'd come home and I just had no energy. I was eating, again, like, I'm quite a big eater. my diet went down. I lost loads of weight. All sorts of things affected me, and I remember coming off the back of it. And when I finally got my club open, I think I slept for about 3 days. I just literally needed a recharge, and I come back and I felt so much better. And yeah, I wish I'd done it a long time ago, because since then as well, in such a short period of time, so many other doors have opened, and I've grabbed a couple of opportunities even during COVID as well, and that leads into obviously quite a big project which I've got on the horizon, which obviously you two guys, luckily enough, you guys know a bit earlier than anybody else.
You can't see, we're not in on this. We know nothing.
No, you know.
We know nothing about this new project, but feel free to give a
I'm terrible at keeping secrets. I have to sort of say something. I have to sort of get it out. But yeah, like going back into that mental headspace, I don't really like to tell people individually that about it, but we're in a safe space, aren't we? And like I said, everything's on the table here. So yeah, last year was hard, but going back into like who I was 12 months ago, I think this has been a turning point in my life where I wouldn't say massively changed as a person, but it's just how I now approach every, should we say, if you want to call it an obstacle or a negative or a decision or anything like that, or even like a positive. When I approach a positive, I really get to, I found a massive value now in I feel as though my eyes have been open to quite a lot in the last sort of 12 months, and I've really had to grow, and obviously take a lot of responsibility as a director of a company, and as a direct result of what happened as well. I've had to massively sort of step up, and I think once you've sort of made that step, you're never sort of gonna sort of step down. And being honest, I think I probably took that step from being a kid to a man. If you like,
right.
And I think that for me is a big sort of thing.
Yeah. So do you see it now then as a good thing or a bad thing?
Massively good. Like I look back and I'm just like, if there's people that I could say like, you brought me that stress, I would thank them all, and I would just say, thank you, because it's never going to happen again. Like I'm on very firm grounds now. I'm on very firm footings in terms of if I want to jump, like I know the ground below me is not going to give way. Yes. And again, even I'd thank them just for the change in attitude I've got. And I find like I'm able now to be a lot happier, even on my own, even just doing my own thing, dawdling around, whatever it be. I'm a lot happier now in everything that I do without the stress and the headaches of the previous influences that in reality shouldn't really have been there.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for the force, I think of like the biggest decider, the biggest impacts, if it wasn't for that, potentially I'd have still been sort of just going along. And sort of just getting on with it, thinking this is life. So
yeah, well, you've been through like potentially one of the most scariest things in business, right? Like losing your premises, losing potentially your identity, being really up against it, and you found out that on the other side of it, it's actually better than it was. You can't come up against much more that would be as daunting.
Well, this is what I said.
You've got the resilience.
Yeah, I was like, in business now, I couldn't imagine anybody's ever going to throw me a curveball that I'm not going to be able to just go, look, I've done something, I've dealt with something worse than that. It's it is. I mean, going into like business, I am actually going through a situation at the minute where I got a guy who come along and he was supposed to do a job for me in terms of like business rates assessments and things like that. And this guy just went off on a mad tangent. Well, I say went off. He didn't do anything with me really. And then the next thing like I'm instructing him to try and continue this job that we'd agreed and what he should be doing or shouldn't be doing and so on. And then this guy like delivers me a bill for something that somebody else had done. And I was like, how can you do that? I don't understand. Like, I've got evidence from this guy. I've got evidence here. I've got the emails here. I've got all these kind of things that sure. And I think like. I just said, look, I don't understand what you're going at. Anyway, this guy tries to insinuate saying he's going to take me to court, and I'm like, yeah, right, no problem. I was like, this will be a walk in the park. I was like, and I tell you what, like I've spoken to people about it, and people are like, when I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's trying to take me to court, like, oh my god, like is it? And I'm just like, yeah. I have more stress now when the batteries run out in the remote, and I'm trying to find the batteries and what I've done with them. I just like,
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you wouldn't, and I found this. I was fortunate early on in my business career. Running out of cash flow, then being panicky with sales, which then has the wrong feeling when you're trying to bring in those sales. It's one of those, when things are running really well, it's almost like you don't, when you're making sales or you build, the business is building really well, it just seems to have a positive ripple effect. But when you're desperate and you need things to come in, people seem to feel that. And I remember very early on in my business career, I remember a mate of mine, and he was sat with me, and it was one of the most important things I remember learning, and someone gave me advice, is that you won't know it now, but everybody goes through this, and you will come out of this better and stronger, but you definitely won't feel that now. And I thought that was so valuable. And it's like, you wouldn't want to repeat what you went through, Jack, would you? There's no way. If someone says, right, do you fancy doing that again? You'd be like, no way. However, it's so important to have that awareness, to reflect back on those times. And like you said, now when you go through that, everything's like a walk in the park, and it's character building, isn't it? And when you come across people, you must see people in business or challenging times, and it's almost, you almost can't get that message across properly. It's almost unbelievable. There's no way you can reassure someone, essentially. They've got to experience it and go through it themselves in order to look back and reflect. So do find that very interesting. Let's talk, you've got this training academy. So what does that look like?
I set that up a while ago. That was a bit of like sort of a sad sort of thing, which I had an idea of. I saw a bit of a gap in the market. It's gone back a couple of years now. And I thought, right, there's nobody really. I mean, when I was learning, to sort of try and be a professional in the industry and all that kind of stuff, and like progress through it, I had to, to pay for everything up front. You're talking quite a few £1,000 as well to become a qualified PT. You have to go down certain channels. You have to travel certain places because it's not available in Hull either, and all that kind of stuff. I think the closest place I had to go was like Leeds, but then it's like, you've got to go every day for 8 weeks, and it costs a hell of a lot of money, especially as a young person trying to get into that sort of job role. And then what happened is, over the years they made it easier to access, but then you can get a course now for like £800, but the course, it's like, well, what's it worth? What does it actually show you? What do you actually learn? So I thought to myself, like, I want to set up like a fully transparent training organisation where we'd go to people, and basically people become students. So it's done through like government funding. Where people can basically choose to, if they wanted to go for a career role, a career change, and as a role of being in the fitness industry, so on, they can then apply for a place through us, and we can put them on to like level 2 or level 3. We've looked to branch out as well, so we're going into like level 4. We can offer sports massage and other various bits and pieces as well. And it's really good because we offer one instructor to like say no more than like 8 to 10 people. We offer really good online support as well. So the course is really well done. Obviously, it's based upon my club, Fit24. So got a really good facility there for people to train from as well. And then we're also able now to actually expand and potentially go into like other people's clubs. But I mean, I've just sort of scratched the surface with this, because I want this to end up being something that we could then look at partnering up with certain people, and also going into like potentially like the NHS and saying, look, you guys have got a massive issue here with like, obesity, diabetes, things like that, which, exercise is a preventative of. And rather than paying hundreds of thousands of pounds, for like medicine and all things like that, and doctors' time and so on, just get people into the gym, get people into the industry. So the company was founded to be, fully transparent. Doesn't hide any figures or anything like that. It tells people exactly what they're signing up to. Gives them a really good sort of opportunity though, because they don't have to pay anything back with it going for like a student loan application. They don't have to pay anything back until they're earning over a certain threshold per year as well. So as a young person, it's good because, it's potentially one of like, the best sort of loans that you can get, if you like, because it's providing them with an education to then further and better themselves. But we've ended up with doctors on it, people that are in the club that just want to basically understand and improve their knowledge of the industry and how you should go around, talking to people and addressing people, not just, I mean, if you imagine, if you go to the gym, you don't really know what you're doing, and like someone walks up and they've been training for quite a while, and they're walking up and the pump's up and they're sweating. They might be the nicest person in the world, but then they walk up to you and they try and say, oh, you're using that wrong, you need to do it like this. It can be quite intimidating for a lot of people, where if they're then taught how to approach that person, what to say, the key points that should be used, I mean, that's just like scratching the surface of it as well, you know, with obviously what we offer as a service. You know, I'd say a lot, well, we have a 100% pass rate currently as well. So everybody who starts the course finishes the course. They all have a good understanding. They also get some extra help as well, because again, with it being based at my club currently as well, we're able to then speak to people, you know, as they're coming in, give them a little bit of extra advice if they need it. You know, and I think up to now we've probably put, you know, probably close to 100 people, you know, through obviously the course, through the academy, which is good. Sort of good numbers, like I say, with a 100% pass rate. But again, like that sort of company for me, even though it's done pretty well, it's still like in its infancy of what it potentially could end up being. So it's sort of alongside obviously my main sort of focus, which obviously at the minute is the club. And I get to spend time on it as and when I can. But again, it's something for the future, I think, which is going to do pretty well.
Yeah.
You spoke about the loan. Is that a government-backed scheme, or is that something that's...
It's just like a student loan, so that they can pay for it privately as well. The student loan is just basically one of the examples of how they could go through it. So, I mean, if you're talking, like I say, like an 18, 19-year-old coming through, you know, are they going to have a couple of £1,000 spare to be able to, you know, pay for that front? Probably not. So again, you know, it's something that we can offer, and these guys then don't have to necessarily worry about it until they're earning above a certain amount. So they can actually get into employment, get into earning. It's not something that they're then seeing as a loss until they're actually earning enough money, if you like, to be able to live a comfortable life and more. But then again, we do offer, like I say, the service of where people could pay for so much, or people could pay for all of it if they wanted to. So, you know, we're not just targeting people and, you know, and trying to stick to a market. We're offering it to everybody, you know, of all ages. So it is a good service that we offer there.
Yeah. Is much of it online? Was it? I imagine it's the sort of training that is obviously very one-to-one or physical, and so will have struggled recently.
Well, recently, again, that's another thing. Like, you know, it's another company, you know, from my point of view, where we didn't get any aid or anything from the government with that one either. So, you know, it was one of them where it just sort of, luckily, it doesn't have a lot of overheads, you know, that kind of thing. It's all a performance-based sort of, you know, company. So it was able to survive this. I think we had a course which was running before, and then as it hit during it, it went through a period where, you know, it's hard. We couldn't do obviously the face-to-face. We couldn't get them into the club. So we had to base it upon like distance learning. But then again, we didn't skip on parts of it. So obviously the stuff that could have been done distance learning to a good level was done. But then thereafter that, like, these guys are coming back in now because they need to have that face-to-face value. They need to have most of the time in the gym. They need to be, you know, ticking boxes in that side of it as well. It can't all just be, you know, pen to paper, because let's be honest, you know, they're going to be working in an industry which it isn't pen to paper. You know, it's all physical. It's all out there. It's all how you approach, speak to people, treat people, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And what were you able to do any? You've got PTs who are out of work. You've got a gym that can't be used. I'm sure everybody spotted, you know, exercise classes. It was Joe Wicks and stuff. Were you able to do anything remotely, or I mean, I saw that there was some training sessions happening in the car park at one stage. Is that right?
Yeah, we it's a bit of a sort of a grey area, I imagine, because we had, I mean, from my point of view, it's not financially viable for me to be turning up, trying to get kit outside, letting people train, that kind of stuff, you know, and paying for, like, say, for example, a day pass, because the business just doesn't operate like that. But then the PTs who work for me, I mean, I don't charge them guys a rent. I just expect them to, you know, look after the club as if it's their own. And I don't think any other club does that. I think every other club expects something from them. So again, like, I haven't put that noose, if you like, around their neck of them having to, you know, find the money, find the clients to be paying a rent. I mean, some people can be paying, like, depending on the area, but I know in Hull alone, some people can be paying £600 a month. Now, if you think as a PT, you know, you've got to earn £150 a week before you even start earning money to then put fuel in your car. I mean, that to me is a very backwards, and it's an old-fashioned way of, like, the industry sort of being like an industry standard, which in my eyes now, especially after I've trialled it in my club and I see the difference, I believe it should be eradicated. It should be gone. I think there's a lot better ways to have PTs in your club and you actually get something from them without putting that noose around the neck. So what I did is I'd let my PTs use my equipment, providing that they was going to, like, look after it, take care of it, keep it clean and tidy, and they was able to then use the space of the car park. And we've got some areas there which are undercover as well. So even when it was raining, people could still get a session in. And it was good because, you know, again, these guys are self-employed, you know, so fair low, it's harder for them to claim than what it is if it's like a person who just works for a company and so on. So I just did anything I could within the guidelines to keep them guys afloat, and to keep them with income coming in. But again, that's only so much. I mean, people are used to paying for a gym membership, which allows them to go to a big gym with loads of equipment, changing rooms and all things like that. If I go and pay for my haircut, I'm not expecting my hair to be cut in the car park. I don't want to breeze, blowing everything over it. I don't want to be getting wet in the rain, and that's kind of happened. So yeah, it was a case of where it was just the best case scenario, I think, of what we could offer, for the PTs, and then for the PTs to then obviously pass on to the clients. So yeah.
And you mentioned as well that you've got a supplement brand coming up.
Yeah, so it's, but I mean, with that one again, like just talking about like sort of doors opening, and sort of being in the right place at the right time. I suppose there's a little bit to do with it, but met a guy in the year, really good guy, called Laz. I'm pretty sure I'll probably watch this podcast after I tell him about it, and he's done really good things for that brand in the UK already, and we've ended up having quite a lot of synergy. I've had quite a lot of lengthy conversations, and basically I've ended up taking a role within that now to then launch that into the UK. So it's called SSA. It has a full product range of everything, so it's a pretty big sort of player. It's not just coming along with like a product line or like a pre and a post or whatever it is. It's got everything there. Different areas as well, targeting weight loss, muscle gain, endurance, overall sort of health stuff as well. And the products are really, really good. I don't have anything to actually start product placement and put it in the back shelf, so I have to look it up. But no, it's really, really good, and that's doing really well. We've got a couple of guys on the road going out and introducing it into clubs and shops and things like that. But yeah, I mean that's doing as well as what I expect, especially coming out of COVID and coming out of the lockdown as well, because I think a lot of people aren't as fortunate as what I've put myself in as a position. So I think there's a lot of people, and again, Jay, this leads into what you said earlier. It's when you're trying to say to people, look, everything will be fine. This is what you should do. And I think when someone's like surrounded by, like I was last year, when someone's surrounded by so much smoke, and you can't really see where the light is or what direction to go in, I think it's hard, especially like you say, with me being in that situation at one point, it's hard to know where to go, what to do, where you're going to get traction. And again, like you said earlier, Jay, again about working on like different parts of your business. When we were talking, I think obviously before the interview of, what do you do to improve this and what do you do to improve that? And I think the overall answer is sometimes it's just not worth putting all of your effort into that without actually knowing, well, how long am I going to be able to sustain that? How long is that going to be done for? How long, what's the longevity of it? Because then you lose the effort that you would have put into, like say, the main part of your business, which is like the main drive. So yeah, I think a lot of people are going to need help, obviously, sort of being pulled out of that smoke. Again, before that they can actually get back on track.
How it is, Keaton, were I right in guessing that the supplement brand and business has accelerated because the club has been closed? Have you channeled a lot of focus and energy that you wouldn't normally have had?
Yeah, so again, like this is something that I spoke to Laz about in quite a lot of depth, because there were certain things that we had to do, certain boxes that we had to tick, certain things that we had to get agreed and set up, like delivery service of it for one, the reps on the road, that kind of stuff. And if this hadn't been in lockdown, then the whole focus had probably been on the club and on the academy, and this is an opportunity wouldn't have come around. And I think I knew that from quite an early stage, because I actually set like targets to hit by a certain time, to have boxes ticked off and things like that with him. And as the setup of the company sort of had to be in place as well before the gyms open, because I knew full well as soon as we was given the nod to open, I had to be 100% invested back on that. And then again, that's another thing, because then while you mentioned about like timings and stuff like this sort of project that I've got going on with with someone who was pretty good. I'll let a little bit more go every time, but with someone who's a pretty well known character for the club, for the city. Sorry, he's a really, really nice guy. As I obviously build momentum towards that, I've got to shift my own sort of my efforts and my time from one area to another area, because it's going to require a lot of taking care of, in its infancy before obviously I'm then able to to allow people to then obviously visit it and to utilise the facilities, shall we say. Before I tell people what it is, they can guess. People are gonna, so.
But you've come out of lockdown absolutely, fighting, with a real growth mindset. Is the stuff that you would say no to? Do you have limitations, or are you sort of free at the moment?
If I'd have asked that like 10 years ago, like, do I have limitations? I'd have given you a list of things that I'm like, no, not doing that, not doing this, not doing that. And now I'd probably say that there's a lot less on that list of things that I probably wouldn't do or wouldn't try. And one thing I've realised as well, like, I got stuck in this idea of, if I fail, I've failed. And there's no like sort of way back around that, or there's no way here, or there's no you're just gone. Like, everything's gone, and you become like you become yesterday's chip shop paper. So it's your old news. And I think after like what happened last year, I thought to myself, well, there must, if I can overcome what I went through last year, then there must be ways of everything being overcome. And this again like leads into like when I said earlier, like, if I see a problem now, I don't even necessarily see it as a problem. I just see this is some kind of like, I see it as like life for me now is just a massive assault course that I've just got to find ways to like get over the walls, get under the wall, do whatever I've got to do. And some things are going to be harder than others. Sometimes you're going to get thrown a couple of like curveballs that you've just got to watch out for. But like, my industry, we're seeing some big changes in terms of like big gym corporations closing. We've got, say for example, DW, for example, they closed last week. That come about pretty sharply, and then they've just seemed to have disappeared from Hull. I don't know if they're reopening or what. But then for me, I just think, well, there's an opportunity here for like, especially independents, and especially independents that have secured the businesses and propped them up pretty well, because if they've not got like massive lendings and big rents to pay, and if they've agreed obviously good deals from the outset, not only have they been able to survive, but then they're able to do a really good cleanup job potentially, move forward. And I suppose that's in a way like, what I want to do is I want to try and keep sort of not reinventing the wheel, but bringing a better quality of a gym on a large commercial scale to an area, which offers not only just the facilities, but then a community feel, and appeals to everybody. And that way, I think, especially if you do that, you tend to find that the community has a lot more care for your business than, what it was a big chain. I mean, I know it's like horrible to say, but I don't think people are going to be that bothered and that too concerned if like, your big corporate chain gyms was to disappear and fall off the market, because it's only going to make room for small clubs. And I noticed like last week, there was a little bit like to and fro and going around about DW closing. And somebody had made like a comment about like all the other gym owners in like the east of Hull sort of rubbing their hands together thinking, I'm looking out for all these members. And, some people got like triggered by it, and there was commenting saying, it's wrong of you to make fun of people's jobs being lost. And it was like, well, no, I'm not making fun of people's jobs being lost. I'm making, fun of other gym owners then like, looking at these members. And then one gym owner, I think it was Gray's gym up in East Hull. So I think that's not too far away from DW. The best comment I'd seen back, I think he commented back saying, well, it was only what DW did when they opened up and I was already in, they took my members. And I just thought, you know what? Yeah, you've got an independent guy there who was not only been like trading for a hell of a long time, he survived a big player just coming in, loads of money, like not even their own money, just coming in, like lending loads of money, big rents, loads of kit, splash out on it, we'll service this over 15 years or whatever it be. And he's now sat there just thinking, well, yeah, I'm not bothered that they're closed because they only come in here to try and muscle me out the market. And you know what, like, fair play to him. I take my hat off thinking, well, he's not only overcome the test of time, he's overcome obviously the test of somebody massive like that opening up on his doorstep. And now, like, I'd say to him, yeah, get as many as you can. Like, fill your boots because
and with more clients comes more job opportunities.
Of course, exactly. So, yeah. Me myself, not me myself, but my manager Mike, he took two of the guys on from DW, took them on as employees now at Fit 24, and he was the one who was actually getting some stick for basically, having a bit of I laugh with the situation of like, you know, other gym owners in that side of the city being happy that it's happened. You know, so, you know, I think, you know, it's this forever changing times going to be coming ahead. And when we actually get back to some kind of normal, it's going to be a new normal to what it was previously. But I think, you know, if you've got something about you, and I think if you've got a good pair of, you know, a good mindset. I was going to say something.
Good pair of what, Jack?
So I think, yeah, you've got a good mindset, and you know, you don't mind obviously going out and grabbing something with both hands, shall we say? Then I think you'll. Then I think this is a good opportunity, basically, for.
Yeah.
Well, before we sign off, our viewers can see you've got a plethora of collectibles behind you. Our listeners won't be able to see that, but you give insight into what we're actually looking at in the background in your office.
Well, I got started as a kid. I think my cousin gave me like a Transformers toy when I was a young kid, and I just I played with it for hours. And then it was, ever since then, it was a case of like, you know, as a kid, you know, I always wanted that. And this is, again, like I've never sort of grown up, even like in my adult life, as you can see. You know, my house is pretty much full of some kind of like comic memorabilia collectibles, whether it be, you know, like some kind of statues or, you know, movies or figures or that kind of stuff. So I think it just keeps me young. You know, when I come home, you know, I switch off, I turn away. I'm a big fan of the cinema, you know, because you go there and you can really like relax and shut off from the outside world. And it's kind of what I do, you know, I do when I come in. Like, this is actually my working office. So, you know, as I'm sat here, I'm doing the books, I'm doing whatever I need to be doing, but then I can turn around and just spin, and I'm taken back to my childhood of, you know, no bills, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Well, where can people find you? Where's your website, your social books?
Yeah, so I've only got Instagram and Facebook. I'm not too handy on Twitter or anything like that. So my Instagram's Jack _Burton 92, and you'll see pictures of my dogs that haven't made an appearance today for the first time, and the other various bits and pieces I'm doing on there. And then the company one, the main one, Fit24, is just Fit24 Hull, and that's for both Facebook and Instagram as well.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Well, you know, no doubt you'll continue to attack the day. It's great to hear. You know, we've heard so many stories of people when COVID hit, you know, looking at the options, you know, and believing that there is something positive to gain from this. And that's quite an alien concept for many people who have just seen, you know, bleak times and challenging times. But it's great to. It's great that you've attacked the day, and yeah, and I'm sure you'll continue to do so. So yeah. Am I still live? Or am I lagging? Has Wi-Fi dropped out at the wrong time?
No, you're still there. But what? So, but yeah, just on a final
note.
There we
go. Too much positivity.
Blown it. And on a final note, you're starting on this secret project, this Project X.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really, really interesting journey and story over the next few months. Starting something at this point in time and seeing where you're at later in the year. So it'd be great to check back in with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I'd say is to a lot of people who know sort of like, you know, the things that have sort of progressed in my last 12 months, you know, I sort of like promised the public, if you like, that I was going to be doing this. And well, I promised the members of my old club that I was going to be returning back into an area that I'd been in for a long period of time. Not in the same building, but it's going to be quite close to that. I can guarantee, obviously, it's going to be a better version of what was previously there. And it's going to be, you know, with someone, you know, we've shook hands on it. We've got a pretty good understanding, good relationship already built there. And I mean, I hope, and I do think he's excited as I am to bring what we're going to be bringing to the area and to the community. You know, so I think it's going to be really good. You know, this guy's been on TV a few times. You know, and he's quite a good personality.
Yeah,
within the city. You know,
who'd have thought John Prescott would be interested in a gym?
Exactly. You never know.
Yes. There's a guy that grabs balls with both hands, Jack.
But like you say, I mean, this is a time where I don't think a lot of people are going to be expanding to the extent that I want to. Especially just being like an individual or a couple of individuals, shall we say, within the city. You know, and we're both local, very local to obviously the city, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be attacking the DJ, as you say. Not that's so soon after obviously looking at, you know, coming about. But you know what, I've got a really good gut feeling about it, and I think like the public as well are going to really get behind it when it's announced. And I think as it progresses as well, you know, it'll be, and we'll keep people up to date with the progression and so on. It'll be something good. Like I keep saying, but I think it'll be something really good for the area and the community as well, and the city as a whole. And again, like, you know, if you guys I'd be willing to have us again, you know, that'd be something which I'd love to come back on about and speak about the journey.
We'd certainly welcome Mr. Prescott onto the Business Lockdown, wouldn't we, Phil? Certainly. Hey, I've got massive respect ever since he you know, walloped that guy who threw an egg at him. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So yeah, but on a serious note, we'd certainly love you guys to come on. You know, your new business partner. That would be awesome. And just give us a shout. You know, like we've said before, we've reached people in more than 50 countries, in excess of what is now over 80,000 people since we started this. So, you know, and all for the right reasons, non-sales and just adding value and connecting with as many people as possible. So yeah, please do keep us up to speed.
You know, I mean, for me, Jay, like I have had a couple of people where they've come into the club, and I've been able to give them, you know, as much time as they needed. And what I'd say is, I mean, like, you know, I've known you a long time as well, where, you know, to the point where I think if I ever had to just bounce something off the wall, you know, you'd be one of the people that obviously I could, you know, drop a message to, speak to. You know, we spoke in quite a lot of depth about things.
I thought you were going to say you were going to bounce me off the wall then, Jack. I mean, I know you're a big lad and that, but
so yeah, you know, I mean, I'd say
like, I appreciate that, mate. I appreciate that.
No, but if anybody is like, you know, watching this and they're in a situation where, you know, they have their own independent business and they're in this smoke at the minute and they can't seem to get out of it. I mean, you know, for me, I'd want someone to basically extend the hand if they could. So if anybody else, I mean, whether they're in my industry or not, you know, I'd definitely, obviously, if somebody, like I say, just needed someone to say, well, look, this is the situation. I mean, where did you go? Where did I go? Whatever. I'd be willing to obviously offer that if anybody needed to was watching this.
Brilliant.
Awesome. That's
awesome.
Appreciate
Jack.
That. Well, we could, as we often say, we could chat for 3-4 hours and cover a range of topics. But we'll have to draw a line today. But yeah, we'll certainly love to get you back on, especially with exciting times clearly ahead. So, and you've now broke the seal. Your first podcast is behind you, Jack. So
never know
first one. So, but thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the time you've taken out, and I don't even think we need to wish you the best of luck, because it's a given with someone like yourself so driven. So yeah, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jack.
Good to speak to you, Phil. Good to speak to you, Jay.
Cheers,
mate. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Business Lockdown.
Please comment, like, share and subscribe to help build our global community.
We look forward to seeing you all soon.